Hello, everybody. Back again with SFC Fan TV. Are we live now, Mike? Are we live this time?
We're live this time, yeah.
Champion. And on the channel tonight, Mr. Michael Bowers has just appeared. Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
Yeah, let's just ignore the fact the timing was literally down to like 9 seconds, but I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Champion, have you recovered from last night?
No comment.
Are you ready for the weekend?
Even more no comment.
It's a great talk show.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Mowbray Derby, bring it on.
Are you fitting well, though?
Yeah, take our football out of it. I'm not doing too badly.
Excellent. That's all we want to hear. And also on channel, we got Jack Shields. Jack, have you recovered from last night?
Yeah, it was very, very depressing night. So probably not, but this is therapy, really, isn't it? This hour that we use it should be classed as therapy to sort of get all of our frustrations out and have a little bit of a rant, and then hopefully we feel better in an hour's time. So we'll see what this evening brings. But I'm looking forward to talking about. I'm looking forward to a good hour about Sunderland, talking about Sunderland.
Jack, just remember, more views. Think of the views.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
And also we have Mike. Mike, how are you doing, mate?
Not so bad. I'm with Jack. I could do with this therapy right about now. So, yeah, as long as it doesn't end up with us four crying on screen, I'm not sure that'll be good for views. But, yeah, fit and healthy as always.
Why not YouTube?
And also on the live stream, we have SJ. The squad is better than what Beale is getting out of them. That was a pile of shite last night. Paul Armstrong must be our poorest performance this season so far. Paul Armstrong, the same two okay games, then a bad one. We won't go up. We keep doing this. We got Brian, Scotia Mackham on there. Good evening, lads. Colin Major, hi, lads. David Joblin, Conrad Tank, Conrad Lee, and Ben Allison all saying hello. So before we get into last night's match, I want to go back a little bit and we'll talk about the Plymouth one. I don't think we spoke about the Plymouth one on this channel because the last time one was last Thursday. So the Plymouth game. Plymouth come into the game in good form, but off the back of a defeat of a long 120 minutes against Leeds. Now, a couple of things I want to say is that, the first half against Plymouth was pretty poor, almost as poor as last night. But the second half, we upped our game. Now, did we up our game, or did Plymouth lose their legs because of the 120 minutes they had against Leeds? So we'll start with Michael Bowers. What was your take on the whole Plymouth situation, Michael?
To answer your latter question about whether we raised our game second half or whether Plymouth basically tired out, I think it's probably a mixture of the two of them. That was probably one of the reasons why I was glad that Plymouth's replay against Leeds went to extra time, because I did feel like, as much as I know some people, I know, for example, we will hate what I'm probably about to say, but the fact you've played 120 minutes in the FA Cup and then you've had to travel all the way up from Plymouth to the northeast, which I think is the longest distance, at least in the Championship, if not the EFL, if not probably the whole top four tiers in English football. I think it probably would have had an effect. I actually didn't think the first half was that. I mean, it wasn't great, but I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was average. Put it that way. I think Poor personally is a bit harsh on it. I think because I thought Phil Smith in the Sunderland Echo, I think he put this on his own live stream on YouTube, that thought Plymouth deserved the lead at halftime, which I disagreed with. I thought Plymouth did. Apart from the goal they had, apart from the goal they had one ball over the top where, was it Ryan Hardy, I think, also forced a Patterson into a save. But apart from that, Plymouth were content to sit off and basically protect a 0-0 at that point, which was nothing against them. Teams are going to do that. We've got to find a way to break it down. But then second half, I thought Michael Beale probably got into them at halftime, and then we actually started to show the squad level that I think we should be playing at. And to sort of touch upon, who was it who put the comment before? SJ, yeah, I think the squad is better. But it's definitely better than last night's performance for me. I think the Plymouth second half is more the level of what we should be expecting out of this squad. But yeah, but also it's helped by the fact we scored 2 great goals. Well, 3 good goals, actually, to be fair. First goal from a set piece, which I was amazed we scored one from, because we're usually shocking at set piece goals. They're non-existent when it comes to Sunderland. And then the second and third goals were very good finishes, both coming in off the post, 2 bits of quality. So yeah, I was much happier than I was on Saturday afternoon than I was last night coming back from Huddersfield, that's for sure.
Happy days. So back on the chat again, we've got, I don't know how many people we've got on the channel tonight. Let's have a quick look. 80 people watching. So 80 people, if you're all right and you're happy, please give us a thumbs up on the stream. So on the channel, we've got Conrad Lee says, Mike and Jacob did talk about it on Monday, was it? Was it Monday? I think
it was our Monday night live that was on Tuesday, yeah.
Right. We've got John Nesbitt on there as well. Evening, lads. Is it appropriate to have minute silence now that the season is beginning to drain away? It's looking that way. It's very, very borderline at the moment. Definitely borderline. The first half against Plymouth. I think the first half against Plymouth was pretty boring.
You broke off there, and I don't know which one of us you're talking to.
Michael, do you not think the first half against Plymouth was pretty boring?
I suppose for Beale ball, it was pretty exciting. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, I didn't think we were that good first half. I didn't think we were great. I just didn't think we were as bad as some people thought we were in the first half. But yeah, I mean, well, I'm not going to pretend we did all that much. We didn't really. So yeah. I mean, I can see why you would say it was boring. It wasn't a great spectacle.
Right. Okay, Mike, we'll go to you now. Plymouth match. What was your take on it?
I mean, I don't fully agree with Michael, but I think it was a bit flat in the first half. But I think that's just because you're expecting more out of them. But they didn't do anything specifically wrong in the first half. But it went 1-0 down, and the response we got is what you'd like to see from a Sunderland team. And as soon as we get one goal back, it seems like the confidence goes up. If we could play like we played in the last 10 minutes against Plymouth for a 90-minute game, we'd be untouchable in this league. But it seems like, what does it take for us to wake up to a game? That's what I want to know. Because, it's obviously not a motivational speech before the game from Beale or Dodds, because I can't see that happening. But, we need something that wakes them up before we start, because we're just starting every game in this same flat format.
Do you think that because he dropped Dodds against Plymouth, do you think he should have been dropped last night as well? Sorry, dropped Job.
I don't know. I mean, he obviously came on and proved us wrong. I was on the live stream doing the commentary for it. And he came straight on and proved us wrong. So I was saying he should have been rested for the full game, and he came on and he scored. But he just looked completely absent in this game. I don't know what it is. And one of the comments in the chat at the time was, looks like a new Rodwell. And that was like a scary thought.
It can't be that bad. I mean, let's face it. I think he's just a bit tired and like being overused over there. And he's a young lad as well, isn't he? So it is going to be tough for him. But I thought the Plymouth game, he did come on and scored a good goal. Like I said, I think personally it's more Plymouth tiring than us sort of raising our game. We did probably raise our game, but I thought Plymouth did actually tire a lot on Saturday, and it's what happens, isn't it? Jack, what was your thoughts on the Plymouth game?
Well, I thought pretty much what the lads have said. I thought it was pretty flat. It was pretty boring. It was a pretty Michael Beale first half, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to be someone who's really going to attack in the same way that Tony Mowbray did at times. He's going to try and be a bit more organised. The football's not as good to watch, let's be honest. I thought probably what happened before half-time, Plymouth scoring, was actually the best thing that could have happened to us, because I think if that game had gone into the second half and it was still 0-0, I think we might have just drifted a little bit, and it might have ended up being a boring 0-0 game. So the fact that we went into it 1-0 down, it forced us into sort of knocking it up a couple of gears, I felt. We might have played like that second half if they hadn't scored, if it was 0-0, but I don't think we would have. So I think in actual fact, the best thing that happened was us going 1-0 down, because it gave us the kick on the backside to start, playing with a bit of urgency. The intensity went up. As Michael says, 3 pretty good goals. The first one was sloppy from their perspective. I'm not sure how Ekwa managed to get the free kick in, but the other 2 were very, very well taken. Second half was a lot better. But they did tire. It's undoubted. You can't mistake the fact that they tired. I mean, they had 120 minutes on a heavy pitch as well. When you're playing on a heavy pitch that was rain-soaked, and it does affect your legs. And you could see them the last 20 minutes, their legs had gone. So that helped us. I don't think we played that well. We were much better in the second half. But I didn't think we played that well. And I think, a lot of people are now saying, Sunderland fans are sort of yo-yoing and zigzagging between Beale. They're saying he's doing well and then he's not. And I really don't think we played that well on Saturday. Even though we won the game, I didn't think it wasn't an emphatic win. It didn't set the world alight, did it? You come away shrugging your shoulders and thought, well, yeah, we won. But, the style of play was poor again and not many standout performers. It was a win. It was a solid win, but I think we were helped by the fact that Plymouth were tied, and Plymouth aren't that good of a side anyway. I mean, they've got 1 or 2. They've got Whittaker. That's probably the main threat. But other than him, they're not that great of a side. So it was a comfortable win, but I wasn't overawed.
But on the chat we got, Jeff says Bellingham is shite. Jeff says the ref was time wasting and it was appalling. Glenn, why does the players look so flat compared to a few months ago? John Ruddick says Kobe is better as being a sub. Job's better as a sub and runs off out of steam last 20 minutes. But we'll go back, Michael, to John Ruddick's other question. If we don't get rid of this ownership, we'll be going up and down between Championship and Division 1. Do you agree with that or disagree with that, Michael?
I don't agree that, well, if we let ourselves go down into between Championship and League One, then that is disgusting. Me personally, no. I think that the standard of player we have recruited should be too good for that. And I know there are some people that really do not like the direction we're going in. But I think for me, we should be better than that. We should be. I mean, look, ultimately down the line, we need to be going back upwards the other direction towards the Premier League. And for me, you can have your opinion on whether this ownership will get us there or not. If we don't get there by next season, at the end of next season at the latest, then I think you need to start asking the questions. I know people will say this season, but let's be real. When you look at the teams that have come down, if you really honestly expected us to finish ahead of Leeds, Leicester and Southampton, then I don't know what planet they're on, if I'm honest. It's nothing necessarily being, and they're entitled to that opinion, but for me, they're just too good. And it's not an excuse. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense. It's not an excuse. It's a fact. Those three sides have just got ridiculously good money. But at the same time, no, I don't think we will. Well, I'd like to hope we won't go down to League One. I said that when we had the relegation season in the Championship, and look what happened. So I can't exactly rule it out, can I? So I've learnt my lesson.
Michael, do you think that we've gone too far the other way by having all youngsters in the side now, just about apart from Luke O'Nien? Maybe we should have kept one or two experience.
There's a... Terry's that annoyed by it that he's gone off and on again. Right. For me, yeah, I think that I'm someone who does get tired of hearing the whole experience thing, because sometimes I feel like that's an excuse when players don't perform. But at the same time, I think letting someone like Pritchard go, I wasn't particularly enamoured with that decision. Well, I wasn't particularly enamoured with that. And I think, whatever my thoughts, I do like Speakman in general. And I think there's a lot of revisionism surrounding him at the moment. But I think he did handle that Pritchard situation pretty poorly. I think Danny Barr is someone, obviously, you get rid of your player of the season. That's never going to go down well. And I didn't agree with it at the time. Although it is quite interesting that he's only played 4 times, I think it is, for Norwich. Can't get in their team. So, I don't know. I wouldn't have minded keeping a bit more experience. But I think you don't need to be experienced to know to put up a fight in games, put it that way. But I think, I'll tell you one area where we have missed experience, I will admit, is midfield. And I think someone like this is one of the reasons why I think, unless Callum Styles is signed to be that way in the rest of the season, then the big failure of the window was not getting a central midfielder. And I don't know whether we are counting on Corey Evans coming back being fit, but I personally don't think we'll see Corey Evans play, because even he's been out for so long that he might end up being injured again, or is he going to be the same player for what we need? If he ends up playing, then fair enough. But yeah, so a bit of experience, certainly in midfield, I would agree. Across the team, I think the youngsters still should be held accountable for their own performances.
Right, yeah. Jack, who do you think was sort of the who would you replace out of the team from like the Plymouth game moving forward to the game? Would you have made any changes from the Plymouth game to last night's game?
I'm trying to remind myself of the team for Plymouth. I don't know. Possibly Bellingham had his rest, didn't he? And then he came back off the subs bench. I think he's actually probably better from the subs bench, to be fair. He took Dan Neil off last night, which was a bit frustrating because although he wasn't in the game, I always think you have a bit more of a threat when Dan Neil is playing. I thought Echo was poor last night. I think you probably do. This is where you're missing another centre midfielder. You know what I mean? You have to. You pretty much have to play Echo because he's one of the only centre midfielders that we've got. Really, we haven't got that much sort of physicality. So I think he could probably do with a spell out of the team. You know what I mean?
But I mean, so the Plymouth game, you win that 3-1, and the way we ended that game. Would there be anybody that you would bring in to last night's match, or would you have changed it the way sort of? Did you change it much, to be fair? Did you change the formation, or did you change the style of play last night?
I don't think there was much change. I thought you could have maybe started Mundle. I don't know how fit Mundle is, but I thought, bar the daft tackle that he did, I thought he actually did all right when he came on. He started with Rushin up front, which I was pleased at. And I thought that, Rushin, I know it was sort of drifting onto the game last night, which we're going to come on to, but I think sometimes Rushin, he makes some really good runs, and our style of play just doesn't suit him at all. So I don't think there's a great deal you can do with this team, to be fair. At the minute, everybody will have their own opinions, but I think it's more so the style that we're playing. I think it's just we're a lot slower now, aren't we? You know what I mean? The build-up's nowhere near as quick. We don't counter-attack with the sort of intensity that we did under Tony Mowbray. The switchover's not on it as much. And yeah, I think you can sort of take being a little bit less of an attacking threat if you're solid at the back and you're hard to break down. But we're not. We concede some really sloppy goals under Michael Beale, don't we? I mean, last night's goal. I mean, if your Sunday League team conceded that, you'd be having words with them, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? With Les and Barry on a Sunday afternoon, and not a professional team on in the Championship. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's personnel as well, but I really don't think the style's getting the best out of the team at the minute.
Right, cheers, Jack. Back on the live stream, we've got Claire Riddick. Riddick, good evening. Love the videos. Thanks for all the fun and chat. Brilliant. I am trained as a mental health first aider at work. If anyone is still in trauma from last night, I'm here to listen. Thank you, Claire. Michael Bramley, we are knocking on the promotion door. Just have to be patient because regardless of anything, we are building something special. And it may look dark now, but in time, we will be there again. Well, Michael Bramley, glass half full. Happy days. John,
very poetic, that. Very poetic, wasn't it? It was like Shakespearean, that. It's in spells Dickensian.
I know. John Nesbitt, I'm now convinced that Speakman is having a big input in who plays, and the old cliche, never change a winning team. So we'll go back on the last night. We'll go on the last night's game, Michael. And what I want to say is, never change a winning team. But the team that finished against Plymouth, should that have been the team that started last night?
Well, first of all, no, because I still feel like when we say that I think Job needs a bit of a breather, we don't mean for 60 minutes and then he comes back into the side and stays in the side. Me personally, I think the team that started against Plymouth, maybe with the possible exception of Roberts, because we've got to remember he's still coming back from injury. But then the question is, who do you put in place of him? So maybe that was why Job came back in. Otherwise, I personally wouldn't have put Job straight back into the side. And I think the comment about him coming off the bench, I think is probably a fair one at the moment. I think and it's not just, I'll quickly say the Job thing. It's not just the fact that obviously he needs a bit of a breather. It's the fact that if he does get the breather, then he'll be a better player for it in the long run. I keep coming back to it, but if you look at Dan Neil 2 years ago, he was absolutely burnt out. And as much as I detest Alex Neil and always will, I think he did the right thing, taking him out of the side and giving him a bit of a spell on the sidelines, and he's a much better player for it. So regardless of that, the team that started last night, yeah, I think, Joe, I wouldn't have been against giving Rig a start last night, actually. I wouldn't have been against taking Job off and then putting Rig in for the moment. And actually, for one simple reason, I think if you had to start Job in one of the Huddersfield or Birmingham games, I pick Birmingham any day of the week because I think you'll find the extra bit of fire in his belly to prove a point. So, yeah, I think I've gone off on a tangent from your question. But if you're asking the team that finished the Plymouth game, maybe unless swapping Job for Rig potentially, then probably not.
Right. Who was your man of the match against Plymouth, Michael?
Man of the match, Dan Neil. Dan Neil. I think he's just a classy I think he's a classy footballer. I think he's a very, very good all-round midfielder. And in the summer, whatever players we might lose, Dan Neil's. I know we can say Jack Clark, but I've accepted that if we don't go up, Jack Clark's going. Dan Neil's the one I'm more concerned about losing in the summer.
Right, so back to the chat. I want to see if everybody on the chat, don't mind giving us a thumbs up, please. Much appreciated if you can. I don't know how many you got at the moment. It says 6 on mine, but I'm sure we got more than 6 thumbs up. SFC 83. Think we'll just need to admit that we are a mid-table team. John Ruddick says, forget about promotion. This lot would not pay the Premier League wages. Colin Major says, stop playing musical chairs. I've got nothing. I'm not in control of anything to do with this website whatsoever. I think that's Mike trying to confuse us because he normally commentates or runs the show. Denny says, Michael, they have a difference between going up against the 3 teams and competing against them 3 teams. Michael, there is a difference between going up against the 3 teams and competing against the 3 teams. Do you want to respond to that, Michael?
Well, I'll put in the chat, it's a fair point, but I think if you're going to say compete against them or going up against them, then yeah, we've beaten 2 of them. We thrashed Southampton, although obviously the scoreline's an anomaly, isn't it? But we've beaten 2 of them at the Stadium of Light. But my point was, I think the fact that I think eventually those 3 teams were always going to be right at the top of the division. And even though there were some people talking about top 2 at the start of the season, I was never of that opinion. I felt for me, if you finish in the playoffs again, it's another good season. I just think that's one of the reasons why if we don't go up this year, which I don't think we will, I want the 3 relegated sides, well, at least 2 of them, if not all 3 of them, to go up, because I think next year, depending on how the Clark money gets reinvested, if we do sell him, because contrary to what some fans want to believe, I actually do believe we will reinvest it. It depends on how well that's reinvested. If we do that, then I don't see any reason why next season we shouldn't be up there challenging.
Right, okay. Michael, same as you, the Plymouth game, would you have changed anything between the Plymouth and the Huddersfield match?
Do you mean Mike? Because you've already asked me that.
Mike, yes, Michael. Yes, Mike.
Too many Mikes.
Sorry, Mike.
I actually expected him to change more, just with it being midweek and resting people. So I expected to see more. Probably would have liked to have seen Pembele on from the start and bring in the Yelder on afterwards. But there was just the only changes he made, I think, were Barr and Job starting, I believe. I might be wrong, but it just seemed like a safe bet. I don't think he wanted to change it too much, because if he'd have changed it too much and we'd have lost, he'd have got more criticism. So I don't know. Personally, I'd have changed it a bit more to begin with, and the subs wouldn't have been bringing new players on. The subs would have been bringing the experienced players back on. So you start like the people like Mundell and Aushish, and then you bring the subs on at half-time or just after half-time to replace them if needs be.
Interesting. Because you're on Pembele, Mike, why would you, unless Yelder's injured or really tired, surely against Birmingham, we won't be starting Pembele and moving Hume over to the left-hand side and putting square pegs in round holes. Surely we'll put Yelder back there because he was rested last night and keep Hume on the right.
You'd think so. I have no idea why he took Yelder off yesterday. I'm sure we'll go into his substitutes, but his substitutes on that game completely baffled me. And you could see in one of the defensive set pieces, Yelder rose up above everybody else and got the head away straight away. And that's what we've missed in defensive set pieces. Then you take him off. He baffles me with his subs. But yeah, you should think he'd start on a game like that.
Right. Okay, Jack, we'll go to you for last night. What happened last night?
$1 million question, Jack. No pressure.
The short story is we were awful and we got beat basically. But no, I know you're looking for a little bit more. I just think we didn't really match their levels of intensity or aggression in the game whatsoever. I don't think you can say that they're any better than us. Ironically, I was talking to a Huddersfield fan coming out the ground and he says that's one of the best we've played. I felt like, well, you said that in November when you hit the Stadium Light, so can you turn up against somebody else? Because it made me wonder, if you play that aggressively and you put that much into the games, why are you in the bottom 5? You know what I mean? They should be higher. But no, I just think they were up for it a little bit more. It was their type of game, wasn't it? It was a scrappy, bitty game. There's not much quality on offer. And they nicked a goal, and we never really looked like threatening their goal, did we? That's the most annoying thing from my perspective, because in previous games at home, we've gone 1-0 down, like in the Plymouth game, but we've reacted. You know what I mean? We have created chances and scored some goals, and we just never looked like it last night. You know, I thought it was quite a physical game, and I thought they were physically dominant all over the pitch, but we made them. You know, that they were putting the body on the line, and they were first to every ball, and you saw quite a few of our players, namely the likes of Ekwa and Barr and one or two others, just not up for it. You know what I mean? They weren't really getting involved. They weren't tackling. They weren't covering the ground. They weren't pressing them when they were on the ball. Every 50-50 Huddersfield player was first to it. And yeah, I mean, we, like I say, we never really looked like scoring. We could have probably played all night and not scored. We had 1 or 2 half chances, but we didn't deserve it. And the annoying thing is, Huddersfield aren't that great of a side. We didn't have to make them work very hard, did they? I mean, they got the goal and they were fairly comfortable, and that's the annoying thing, because we all sort of mark our points down, how many we're getting from each game done. When I thought we beat Huddersfield and a point at Birmingham, and you know, now it's going to be 3 at best if we beat Birmingham. So yeah, just a really, really flat performance. I know you probably come on to individuals in a second, but overall we were second best all over the pitch, and no excuse for that. Absolutely no excuse for that.
Well, Mike, I am sorry, Jack. You were there last night. What was it like in the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any sort of anti Beale chants. Nobody that I heard was chanting Beale out, but it was just sort of everybody was shrugging the shoulders, and there was a lot of criticism coming in for individual players, like the ones I mentioned, Ekwa, Barr, Jack Clark was getting some stick. You know, he didn't really do anything, and the problem is with Jack Clark when he's so threatening, he's one of our only main threats. If he's not in the game, to a certain extent, if you stop Jack Clark, you stop Sunderland, don't you? To a large extent, we're not a one-man team, but he didn't really get involved very much last night. Yeah, we just weren't at the races. So the atmosphere, I mean, nobody was sort of anti-Beale or booing and criticising them too much, but there was a fair few comments, against the individuals that weren't pulling the weight. That the ones I mentioned were getting a little bit of stick.
Right. Oh, Michael, you want to be in?
Yeah, just to build on what Jack said, I think the way he's phrased it brilliantly. Not pulling their weight, not up for as much in terms of intensity, and I know the argument obviously of Beale's got a man motivate them, and to an extent that is true. That is the modern game, but I just feel like half the players just looked half-arsed. To be honest, I don't think the players looked as much up for it, and that's pathetic in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, there was not whether people think it's realistic or not. The fact of the matter is, we're 1 point outside the top 6. If we'd bothered to turn up last night and match Huddersfield's work rate, I think you beat them, and then you're in the top 6 by a couple of points, aren't you? So I think the players have got. I think a lot of the players have got to look themselves in the mirror and ask, how many of them could say I gave 100%? And I don't mean just the minimal amount of effort, like 60, 70% or whatever. I mean like close to 100. Like how many were really desperate to try and get a result out of that game? I think at the start of the game we were flat. We just allowed Huddersfield way too much territory. And I agree with Jack. I don't think Huddersfield are that great a side. I mean, essentially, in my opinion, they beat us because they wanted it more. Simple as that. And I think you've then got to look at, to an extent, Beale for the man motivation. But at the end of the day, let's not let the players be absolved of any criticism, because these guys are professional footballers. They should realise what a privileged position they're in. And I felt it just was flat. And I mean, and I agree with Jack, and I agree with Jack in the end that. I love that, and I agree with Jack in the end that I think Huddersfield deserved the win. I think we didn't. The best chance we had, what was it, Trey Humes, like the 90 stoppage time, but it took us that long to create a really meaningful chance against a side that was 21st in the league at the start of play. And ultimately, I don't think we'll make the playoffs because of stupid results like that. The only game I could say that was worse in terms of performance was Rotherham away, because at least in the Huddersfield game we had that Trey Humes chance. I can't remember a clear-cut chance at Rotherham that we had, and the goal we scored was a deflection. I know Chris saying it's up to the manager to get the players' minds right. It is, but it's also up to the players to put their own application through. I'm just sick of players absolving criticism. You've got to be able to put your own performance. If you're not motivated, then don't bother putting the shirt on.
Before I go to the chat, Michael, let me ask you this question, because Danny Collins had no idea last night. What was the formation? Can you actually confuse players?
Well, the things I've heard with Beale is that apparently, put it this way, in comparison to Tony Mowbray, and I try not to do comparisons very much, but apparently Mowbray was very simple with where go out and just play your football and enjoy yourself. Apparently Beale is very, very I suppose the only thing I can compare it to is Lee Johnson. And I know how much you loved Lee Johnson, but apparently Lee Johnson, I know Mike's eyes there, that was funny, but Lee Johnson apparently thinks things too much the other way, to the point when you're gonna, what's the word I'm looking for? You're gonna overcomplicate things. That's it. And so I do wonder whether Beale is guilty of that. And answer your question, what the formation was, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what the system was meant to be. I couldn't tell you what structure, if there was one that was meant to have. I'm not sure.
Mike, do you know it seemed so lopsided at times last night?
It's it started allegedly as 4-1-4-1, but as the subs came in, it just seemed to go all over the place, because obviously somebody mentioned in the chat, if you're 1-0 down, you look to chase the game. This is Will D. And win defensive battles. Yelder is a defensive player, in my opinion. Pembele offers attacking outlet, which is what we needed in that game. That's all well and good, but in the same game, you're losing 1-0. You take a striker off and put a midfielder on and wait another 10 minutes before you get another striker on the pitch. So it's not justified in that sense. And Michael, just so you know, our best chance for that game was an own goal chance with O'Nine's cross. That was the closest we got.
Yeah. See, the game was that cack. I forgot about that.
Jack, did you not think that it was so unbalanced in the first half an hour of that match? Did you even know what the formation was?
I think it was meant to be a 4-1-4-1 when we had the ball, like it was supporting in with the attack. And then I think when we didn't have the ball. I think Echo was meant to be sort of dropping in to help Dan Neil, so then it became like a 4-2-3-1, as in like 2 in front of the defence, possibly trying to sort of tuck the wingers in a little bit, so almost like a 4. Let's get me maths right, like a 4-4-1-1, if that's right. You know, with when the wingers are tucking back in. But I know what you mean. It was hard to put your finger on it. There wasn't a lot of sort of tactical play. Anytime we got the ball, they were pressing us, and we were just sort of no imagination with it, was it? It was just give it to Jack Clark a lot of the time and hope he does something with it. And they worked it out. They stepped right onto us. They were aggressive. They were physically first to every ball, and they didn't let us settle for a minute, and we had no answer to it. And the one thing you have no sort of nothing to say to is when players are coming on the pitch and they're not battling, and we're not a team that plays like that. We're so one-dimensional. And I've said this a few times on this chat, when they're going well and we've got nice lots of space to play into, we're doing all right. But when a team plays a game like that, it makes it physical and hard for us to break them down. We've got no answer, and that's why we're not going to get promoted. They've only got one way of playing, and in a game like that, we had absolutely nothing.
Will it be in, Michael?
Yeah, 2 points. Because I was going to make this point earlier, and because my memory's shite, I've completely forgot about it. The first point is, and both of them build on what Jack said. The first point is the Jack Clark thing. Yes, unfortunately, it does look like we are just the Jack Clark show. Give it to Jack Clark. But this is something I always ask, and I don't see many people, unless you guys have mentioned it in previous chats, but I haven't seen anywhere else. I haven't seen anyone mention this. Why is it that every time Jack Clark gets doubled and tripled upon, do we not utilise the space that other players then have because people are occupying Jack Clark? So if, say, for example, Jack Clark's got 2-3 men on him, that means Abdullah Bar might be free. Patrick Roberts on the other side, although it looks like he might be injured, he might be free. That means Joe Bellingham might have free space. Russian might have free space. Do we actually bother to work on this in training or not? Because it's something that really is starting to annoy me. Sorry. Yeah, I know Jack wanted in there.
Yeah, I was just building on what you said. I've said this a few times, Michael. I think that where we go wrong a lot of the time is the quick switch over. So if you've got 2 on Jack Clark, that ball should be whipped over the right-hand side quickly and get an overload down the other side.
Yeah,
but I think sometimes as well, I've noticed with Yelder, he's solid at the back and he's aggressive and he's pretty much what we need as a defensive point of view. But I've noticed he doesn't get forward to help Jack Clark on the overlap as much when he's playing on the left back. So, for example, somebody like a Hume would probably be right behind Jack Clark every time. I've noticed Yelder, he doesn't quite get up. So where you're missing sort of Yelder, who would come inside or on the outside and take the second player away, just in case Jack Clark's going to give it to him, then Clark's got a one-on-one. They're doubling up straight away and they're getting 2 in and they're getting settled straight away quickly. And Yelder's not quick enough to get up and support to drag that extra man across. So that's where Yelder might need to work on it. Say, look, when we're in attack and the ball looks like it's going out with Jack Clark, you have to be right up alongside him and giving him that support and stretching the defence a little bit. But I agree. I think the quick switch over on the right-hand side and utilising the space over the other side, we don't do it enough. And we weren't great at it under Tony Mowbray, and we're even worse under Michael Beale, because the speed at which we attack now, it takes us 2 minutes to get an attack going. Well, they're going to be settled. A team that's organised and defensive like Huddersfield were last night, they were just easy to get in the shape and there's nobody breaking the lines. And it was just, that's why we hardly created a chance.
I think we did it once last night. It was towards the end when he switched it over to Roberts. Roberts gave it to Hume and Hume almost scored in the 8th, 9th minute. That was the only time we really did that switch over. Mike, you wanted to be in. Now, Dennis Serkin and Huggins did that great with Jack Clark. I'm sure he yelled a can in time.
Yelder did do like 1 or 2 overlapping runs that I noticed. Terry's just going to bounce around a bit. He did do it a few times, but I don't know if it's Jack Clark can be the problem here, because I mean he's wonderful. I love the guy. He pulls magic goals out of nowhere, but he's all too willing to run into 3 people this close to him than he is to give the easy pass here and here. And as like any sort of football manager will say, sometimes the easiest option is the best option. And it seems we've lost that. When it gets in the hands of like Clark or Barr, because they want to impress and they want to be a fan favourite and they want to make that run and score that wonder goal, they lose that simple side of football. And sometimes that easy pass would have made all the difference.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. But yeah, I understand last night he was running at like 3 players together. He was never going to get through 3 players, at all. Right, back on the chat. John Ruddick says the big failure was not buying a proven striker at this level. Now, I think somebody mentioned that Don Goodman even said we haven't replaced Ross Stewart, which is criminal. Right. Liz Gleave on the channel. In Sun Until I Die, KLD was worried about changing Lee Johnson for Alex Neil. Is he concerned about Beale for Mowbray? John Ruddick, if Ashworth goes to Manchester United, will the Mags take Speakman? Oh, please. Right. Tam says, I think it's time to get real. Write this season off because we can't afford to get promoted anyway. I can't see anything change next year either. We are in a multi-year muddle along. And then also John Nesbitt's on there. The FA needs to seriously look at this parachute payments because it's not just the 3 teams what at the top. It's also like Norwich, West Bromwich Albion, which have the cash. It's becoming a bloody joke. Yeah, I think maybe something needs to be addressed a little bit so it's a bit more evenly spread out to other teams as well, possibly in the Championship. I don't know how they would do that. Mick McCarthy said, thanks, lads. Really appreciate these streams. Top blokes. Last night, I felt like the players had no idea what system we were playing. A handful seemed to have no idea what position they were in. Right, so Michael, again to you. Where did they go wrong last night? And was it because the players are just over-confused?
Maybe that. For me, again, I think it comes down to a lack of desire, comparative desire to Huddersfield. Because to me, even the simpler, I mean, yeah, the players might have been confused. And if they are confused with the system, then that is on Beale. That's not on the players, to be fair. And maybe Beale needs to make sure he stops trying to overcomplicate things with like 20 PowerPoint presentations per game, probably. I'm surprised if he wants to embrace his inner Lee Johnson and use the word philosophy a few times, then, oh, that word brings back memories. But anyway, yeah. So if Beale is confused, then that's on him. For me, I think the players, I think they simply went wrong. But I just think Huddersfield, if they weren't winning the first ball in individual battles, they were winning the second ball. They were showing more aggression, more desire, more urgency to get to lose balls. And I think we just weren't doing that. And even at the start of the game, because I was at Huddersfield as well last night, and I was just noticing, like, guys, no offense, but these are crap. Like, you know, you don't have to just sit off them. Like, actually, you're good enough to, contrary to what people like to think, you're good enough to cause 21st in the league problems, or you should be good enough to cause them problems. Get at them. So I don't know what went wrong. And ultimately, the problem is that because, yet again, and everyone knows by now, I'm big on clean sheet. Yet again, it's another poor goal we're giving away. And because you've done that, it makes a difference going forward because then Huddersfield don't have to come out and attack you, which means there's less space to attack, and then you get more frustrated. It's why I keep banging on every damn week that the amount of terrible goals we're conceding is a bigger problem than what some fans are realizing. I know someone, I think I looked at the league table. I think someone on Twitter might have said it to me that apparently there's only been 3 teams, I think, that have conceded less than us. But to me, that's irrelevant. Some of the goals, it doesn't matter. Some of the goals we've been letting in recently have been really, really poor. Plymouth's goal was poor. That goal last night was poor. Middlesbrough's goal, for albeit the finish was good, I thought it was poor defending. Hull's goal at the Stadium of Light, I thought was poor. The second Ipswich goal was poor. There's so many bad individual goals that we're conceding now. And the sooner that we wake up and actually, deal with this, the better. I have no idea, but the problem is but to be fair, Huddersfield deserved the lead at that point. I thought they were, even though they weren't exactly great, they were the ones that were forcing the ascendancy. We just backed off them and basically just tried to let them take us up the backside, even though there was an opportunity there to break into the top 6. But I don't know. So that's what. Well, I'm sure the others will have opinions. So answer question: what went wrong? I don't know.
Michael, do you think Rushan's got a right to be sort of upset? Because I think I see some potential in Rushan. Once or twice the balls went through and his pace gets him past the defender. Why can't we get him involved more?
That is $1 million question. If I knew that, I'd be going on the coaching team going, right, this is what you need to do. I get really frustrated by this because I could see it even, and I don't know, I'd be interested to see what Jack thinks since he was at the game as well. I noticed that last night. There was a number of times when Rusty was making the right runs, making good runs in the areas. And there was one occasion where I think Dan Neil had the ball and Rustin was making a good run past his fullback, past his man, and we weren't doing anything. And it just really drives me insane because I really believe when Rustin plays that if we can start learning to use him as someone to hit, I know he's not the focal point, I know he's not the tallest, but you don't need to be tall to be a focal point. He's ended up trying to win. He's won duels against players twice his height before. So for me, he's a really, really valuable player to have, and I'm just getting really sick of us not using him. Now, is that down to the players having to become reaccustomed to playing with a forward? I don't know. There might be something in that. Or is it Michael Beale's tactical decisions or tactical whatever he's doing? Or is he over-confusing them? I don't know. But I get really frustrated that we do not use Rusyn more. And to answer your question, yeah, I think he's got every damn right to be upset about it.
Jack, what's your thoughts on the whole Rusyn situation?
It wasn't just last night though. He makes those sort of runs nearly every time we play.
Yeah,
half the time he doesn't get spotted. I think that's where you need to sort of take a risk a little bit, and I think that's what frustrates me a little bit with the way that we're playing, particularly under Michael Beale. It's sort of football with a handbrake on a little bit, isn't it? We're sort of, I mean, yeah, you might have a good attack and you play the ball over the top or in behind, and the keeper might come out and get it, or the defender might, clear it. But take a risk, play the ball in behind. Rusyn might get on the end of it and score. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes we're trying to work the perfect opportunity, and you don't always get that in football. So I think there are certain times we could be a little bit quicker, a little bit, and play the earlier ball and get him in behind. And you only need to get one right, and he could be in. So I think and this is what's sort of leaning me towards thinking he's not going to work with us, because our style just doesn't really seem to be suiting him. I think there's a player in there somewhere with him. Whether or not he's going to be out and out, I don't think he's an out and out number 9, but I do think he's a decent forward player for the Championship. But you have to try and adapt him into the style, or tweak your style to work for him, and I don't think we're doing that at the minute. I think he's coming on and he's looking frustrated. But I agree with what Mike said earlier. It doesn't help when you're needing a goal and you're taking him off, like last night. That was a bit of a head scratcher. That he's not getting on the ball, and then you need a goal and you take him off, and it's like, well, it's never going to work if he's being brought up. He's not getting a better 70, 80 minutes. You're bringing him off after 50 or so.
Why did you do that, Jack? Why did you take off a striker if you're going to midfielder? Then take off a midfielder if you're going to striker. What's the thinking behind? I don't understand it whatsoever.
I'm not sure either, to be fair, Terry. I mean, it was a bit of a head scratcher from where I was looking at. I mean, and as well, I want to mention, we mentioned when Pembele coming on, I thought he was absolutely shocking when he come on. I mean, I don't know where he's been in the last few weeks, but it looks like he's been on holiday or something, on a beach, because he came on. He wasn't running after 5 minutes. He wasn't tracking any of their players, and he was giving them 5 yards, at one point, and then he was puffing and panting after 10 minutes. So God knows what happened to him, but I thought he was a terrible substitution bringing him on. And I know he brought Burstow on with sort of 10 minutes to go, and then we ended up having to play with 10 when Patrick Roberts came on. I mean, he took Rusyn off for Mundle. Why not play both of them together? Why not see if Rusyn can get him on the end of Mundle's balls or something like that? Footballs. And yeah, it was just his head scratcher all night, from Beale.
Right, back on the chat. If you're enjoying the live stream, please give us a thumbs up, much appreciated. Chris Claiborne, Beale could talk himself into buying a chocolate teapot. Blah blah. The team setup is nonsense. If we play less attack and dynamic, we cannot play with one up front or no strikers at all. Again, Chris, it baffles me. SJ Tam. We signed Clark in League One. At that point, he was an untested youngster. At first, he wasn't playing that well in League One. Fans seem to forget that. Will D, if you're 1-0 down, you look to chase the game rather than a defensive battles. Yelder is a defensive midfielder. In my opinion, Pembele, defensive player. Pembele off his attacking outlet. He does, but I thought Pembele was awful last night, like Jack said. Dodds is in command. I've got a question for you in a bit about Dodds and them in the minute to do with Tony Mowbray. Jimmy Stogo, Beale's only the spokesman at the end of the game. Jimmy Nesbitt, John Ruddick, Greggs wouldn't employ him to clean the floors, mate. Right, there we go. Anyone else down there? Paul Armstrong, does anyone know how bad Roberts' injury is after he went off with 5 minutes to go? I don't know. Do you know, Michael?
Well, I think I saw an article that suggested that he might be out for a month, but I don't know how true that is. I'm really hoping that's not the case, but it would be typical our luck.
Was it his hamstring? Because it looked like when he went to run, he just pulled up a little bit. And I thought, oh, that's not good.
It did look it, didn't it? I'm sure Beale said something like it. Was it a similar injury he got against Rotherham, apparently? And obviously that Rotherham one kept him out for a good few weeks, didn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be wrong, by the way. I don't know for definite.
Right. Mike, come on then. Give us your thoughts on the substitutes last night.
Shite. Is that it? Or did you want to elaborate? Yeah, so... I mean, I agree with both the lads about Rusyn. I think he's a superb player. I think he's got so much potential. I don't think he's a solo striker. not in the way that we're playing. Because the runs he did get onto, the runs that were made where he got in front of the ball, he ends up down in the corner. And he can't hold that ball up on his own for 2 minutes while everyone catches up. Now, the problem you're going to have is if you're playing like Job in the number 10, and he's busy getting up because he fell over again, he's never going to be up there in time for the cross. So Rusin's got no one to deliver it to in the centre if he makes the run. And we seem to play opposite of what we should. We've got really good, strong wings. Yet, if you look at the heat maps from yesterday, most of the play was through the centre and ended up on the outside, rather than going down the outside and crossing into the centre. It's really odd. So the subs were just atrocious. They really were. I get what the Will D was saying about bringing a more attacking player on in Pembele. He did have a terrible game, though. But I think Yelder's doing a great job forward and back for that team. But yeah, just taking a striker off altogether when you're 1-0 down, it feels so defeatist. And then, oh great, he's bringing a striker back on. Who's he bringing on? Burstow. It's just not the same caliber to me. I know he finally got his goal not so long ago, but it just doesn't feel like he's the same sort of attacking threat as Rusin. At that point, any other manager, anyone who's spent more than a month playing Football Manager, anyone who has an ounce of tactic in them would have thrown an attacking player on alongside Rusin, not in place of him.
Right, thank you for that. Michael, what was your thoughts on the substitutions last night? Anything else you can elaborate on?
I'm trying to look to see what the substitutions were. But yeah, there was a number. Hang on, so Pembele, Burstow, Roberts, Mundalon, Yelder, Beale, Barron, Rus. I don't know. It's an absolutely baffling one. I mean, the thing is, Beale. I really get
straws. Is he just grasping at straws? Has he really got no idea what he's doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's been a couple of times when, if we're being fair to Beale, that he has made substitutions that has ended up getting us points. He made subs that, well, it's a mixed one. The Middlesbrough one's a moot point, really, because although he made substitutions that in that game that ended up getting us a point, he waited till we were 1-0 down to make those substitutions. And then by that point, you've then got to chase the game to get something. Plymouth, I think he did, to be fair, he did get the subs right against, I think he obviously did get the subs right against Plymouth because he brought Job on and he scored, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, the things I've heard with Beale from one of my mates who likes Rangers a lot is that apparently he's very reactive with substitutions and he's very, I don't know what the word is. He's very reactive with substitutions and it just isn't proactive. And Terry will know this from when I was on Fan TV before, how frustrated I got with Phil Parkinson in particular when he would wait till the 80th minute to make his first change. Now, Beale, to be fair, hasn't done that quite as much, but yeah. I agree with what Mike said. And what you guys have said. I just do not know the theory behind the substitutions. And to be fair, it isn't a thing exclusive to Beale. Mowbray, I felt, was a bit like that. Not quite to this egregious, but it was, let's just throw players on and just hope they score. But whereas, I don't know, maybe there might be something with Beale that I'm not seeing, but I have no clue. It just felt a bit hit and hope to me.
If we sort of drift along to the end of the season, winning the game, losing the game, end up about 10th in the league, would you want to change them next season, Michael?
Sorry, say that again?
If we just drift along the way we are now, winning the game, losing the game, end up about 10th in the league, would you want to change Michael Beale next season?
Yeah, probably. I think for me, I think I've accepted he's going to be here for the rest of the season. We're not going to, because I think the way the club will see it, and I don't necessarily agree with it. I think the way the club will see it is, well, we're 1 point off the top 6, yada yada yada. But for me, the issue is to finish in the playoffs, which still should have been the aim at the start of the season, a realistic aim at the start of the season. How many games we've got left? 14.
14, yeah.
You need to win at least 8 of them. You need to win at least 8 games out of 14 with a couple of draws, and that might be enough. But I don't know. The problem is because we're so well. I mean, this isn't a Beale thing. This was under Mowbray. We've been so poor away from home this season, which was weird because last season it was the other way around. We seem to have got our act together at home, but yeah, like. Away from home, we've just been so poor. And the problem is, if you're not going to get points away from home, you need to then start winning every home game. So to answer your question, yeah, if we end up drifting away from the playoffs, then yeah, I would change next season. I feel for him on a human level with what he's going through with his niece and his personal life. But at the end of the day, I just don't see him long-term being the man for us, unfortunately.
Did anybody at all shine last night? Anything? Anybody?
I thought Daniel was all right. I thought he was one of the few that was actually trying to do anything. Russian, I mean, didn't have an effective game, but that's not his fault because no one was playing the ball into him. Ballard, I thought, was all right. But I'm clutching at straws here. At best, 3 or 4 of them.
Any good? I thought Trey Hume was okay. Do you think? No?
I thought he was fine. I mean, obviously, look. I mean, the thing changes if he ends up scoring that chance, doesn't he? I mean, to be fair, look. I mean, I'm not a particularly big fan of Burstow, but I've got to be fair. When that through ball, Hume was pretty good. But yeah, I'm clutching at straws here. I'm pointing 3 or 4 players that were all right, whereas I thought a lot of them just really underperformed.
Mike, you want to be on?
Yeah, I was just going to say it was difficult because we spoke about man of the match for this game in the actual live stream. But to be honest, 09 for me was a standout player. He just throwing his body on the line, and I mean, one shot he literally, I think he threw himself to the floor, and he almost got kicked in the face for it. To me, he was a good performer throughout that entire game, and we had a lovely little 09 being 09 moment as he mounted somebody on the pitch.
Mike, should 09 be moved to a defensive midfield position and have a centre back with a centre back in defence?
Jack's face.
No. Yes, if we've got a good enough centre back, but I think 09 is good at what he does. I really do. If you could free him up and put him in a defensive midfield position, I think he could generate more. He does make good attacking runs forward. You know, so I think he could do a better job there, but you'd have to find a good player to replace him.
Right, Jack's dying to be in.
That's with the Luke 09 argument. I mean, he is what he is, Luke 09. He's not going to change. He's been a good transfer for us over the last sort of 5-6 years, but he has his limitations. But problem is with 09, people always say he has to play, and when he plays in a position, if he plays defensive midfield, people will say he's not a defensive midfielder. And then he plays centre back and he doesn't do very well, and they'll say he's not a centre back. And then he plays right back and they'll say he's not right back. So it's like we have to put him on the pitch, but nobody's got an idea really of what his position actually is. So that's the only issue I've got with 09. Well,
Jack. Do we have to put him on the pitch, Jack?
No, but not for me. I mean, I've been critical of him. I know he's captain. He's been given the club captaincy, but for me, I think there is an option to rotate him. But I think we're talking about aggression and experience, and sadly, he is one of the best at those. He is one of the most aggressive on the pitch, and he is a little bit more experienced. So it would be hypocritical for us to come on and say we need experience in the team, then take off one of the experienced players to a certain extent. But I just think his limitations, you know, technically as a footballer, I don't think Luke Ryan's anywhere near some of the level of the players that we've got in the squad. But that's just my opinion. I think his utility, he can play a few positions, and that's where he comes into his value. You know, as we touched on, he'll give it a go anywhere, and you know what you're going to get from him, 100%, putting his body on the line. But we need to look at options because nobody should be undroppable. Even Jack Clark. Even as good as Jack Clark is, if he has a poor game, drop him for one game. You know what I mean? Just to give him a kick to the backside, bring him off the bench. But I just wanted to touch on very briefly about Michael Beale, and I think the issue that we've got now is he's definitely still at the end of the season, and he's probably not going to be sacked over the summer. So we'll probably start Michael Beale. We'll start next season with Michael Beale as our manager. Then what will happen is he'll probably have a poor run, maybe October, November time. We'll sack him and go around in circles again. You know what I mean? And that's my issue. You can see as plain as the nose on your face that he's not going to be the right man for us. So why not sort of change it now? But yeah, there we go. It's been done to death a little bit.
Oh, God, I could go on for ages. Well, that's an arguing situation. Any standout players last night? Because we run out of time, eh?
Nobody, absolutely nobody. I wouldn't have even given anybody a 6 out of 10. I thought 4s and 5s are the best I could have given. Yeah, nobody.
Mike,
I was going to ask everyone, who's the vice captain? You talk about dropping 09. Who's actually our vice captain at the moment?
Pass.
No idea.
I'm Ballard. I don't know.
Ballard.
I know it was Corey Evans a while ago, but obviously that's not going to be. So
right. Anyway, anyone stand out last night, or was it all nose to you as well?
09 for me, like I said. I thought you did a good job.
Right, thank you. Right, back on the chat. 163 people watching the live stream tonight. I do apologise, haven't been able to read out the comments because there's just so much to talk about. But I do appreciate the comments. I'm sure everybody on the chat's been reading them. We have Paul Armstrong said, what we're going to do if Luke 09 and Ballard are suspended at the same time, both on 9 yellows. That's a scenario. Now, Triantos has gone out somewhere. We have got Sealed, and we did have Triantos and Sealed both in one game that we did win under Tony Mowbray, but obviously we've only got one of them now. We have Astute Regret. I get Burstow is probably crap, but He's a striker, and when he came on, he wasn't getting the service at all, the same as Rushin. I remember one time, Luke O'Nine's a left side of centre-back. He runs round to the right. He goes forward, drives down the bottom right-hand side corner flag, puts the ball in the box. He can do all that, but nobody can be fucking bothered to get in the box. That's what pissed me off last night. Where was the striker then? Where were the Sunderland bodies when Luke O'Nine did all that work to get down there, put the ball in the box, and there's nobody breaking the neck to get in that box? It's frustrating. Anyway.
And that particularly is down to Beale. Yeah, he's got to take responsibility for that.
Right, spot on. So again, everybody, thank you for your live comments. Right, Birmingham. Michael, we'll start with you. Quick preview for Birmingham and a score prediction, please.
Oh, God. Fine. Well, score prediction, I'll go 2-0 loss. I just think the one saving grace that might give me slight hope of getting a result is the fact that apparently Alex Pritchard's missing this game. I'm not sure.
He didn't play on Tuesday. He didn't play on Tuesday at all.
Well, I've heard mixed up. I've heard apparently that he's not starting. I've heard he's at least not starting the game, but maybe that's Tony Mowbray playing mind games because fuck everything. That might be just how it works at the minute. To answer your question, yeah. So for me, yeah, Tony Mowbray's going to be bang up for this. Our players should be bang up for it, but we'll see whether they are. Yeah, I just think 2-0 loss. I just think Birmingham. I think Birmingham. They've found a really Mowbray seems to fit with what they need at the moment, and. It's like I've watched Birmingham. I've watched the highlights of Birmingham a few times. I watched their game against Sheffield Wednesday. They should have got something out of the game, the chances they had. Yeah, I just think we get beat 2-0. And I think if we get beat pathetically, then I think both Beale and the players have got to look at themselves.
Michael, do you have any thoughts on the Tony Mowbray football? Was really exciting. He gave them the free will to do whatever they want. Then he got sacked. Did it change under Dodds before Beale come in? Or did Dodds give them the freedom as well for a couple of games or not? So I don't understand what Bale's trying to do.
Yeah.
We went that far away from being a really good side under Mowbray, to be fair, were we?
No, well, I don't think we're far off where we've been a bad side now. I just think they're not being. I think someone mentioned at the start. I think the players are better than what Beale's getting out of them, or what they're performing themselves. I think they are underperforming. With Dodds, I mean, the games he had. What was it? West Brom, Leeds, and Bristol City, I believe. West Brom, Leeds. To be fair, I wouldn't have expected us to have a majority of the ball against them. And I think tactically, Dodds had it spot on that night. And I think the players really, you could tell, I think tactically all round, players and head coach were great that night. West Brom, first half was a bit crap. But I think second half, we definitely deserved to win the game. And Bristol City, in my own opinion, I thought we should have got something out of it, even though we weren't great. So, I don't know. We weren't playing scintillating things with Mike Dodds. But again, you got to bear in mind the opponents we were playing. I just think it comes back to the same thing for me, where if we really were wanting to get rid of Mowbray and, then why not? And if we couldn't get anyone else, then just give it to Dodds until the summer. I've pretty much been consistent with that for a couple of months now. I think for me, it would have been better off hopefully Michael Beale turns it around and makes me look like an idiot. But Mike Dodds would have been a better shout to the end of the season for me.
And one last thing, do you think we just got lucky last season with having a Mad? And Mad was amazing last season. Having a Mad on the right-hand side freed up Jack Clark so much. Do you think we just got that lucky last season with a Mad? That was the catalyst that got us into the playoffs, and we're missing him so much this season, and it's telling and showing.
I don't agree with it being luck, because I think we did deserve to finish in the playoffs in the end. But I do get the point you're making. Look, we are definitely missing Amad Diallo this season. And look, I just hated the January window with all the and ahhing about whether he's going to come back or not, when really it was never going to happen. So yeah, I think we are definitely missing him. Actually, just a quick point that Jimmy's just made there in the chat, and I think it's a fair point that we do forget this. The football in the latter stages of Mowbray wasn't that great. I think probably certainly like Huddersfield at home was pretty poor. Millwall away was very poor. But yeah, we were still playing better football than we are now, weren't we? Which doesn't take much, admittedly. To answer your question, yeah. I think we are missing Amad. But at the end of the day, if you had Amad in your team and he was not our player and he's realistically shouldn't be in the Championship and you lose him, you are going to struggle. You're going to struggle in comparison to it. Although I still think the side we've got should be doing better than it is at the minute.
Yeah, I think just mean as in lucky, as in sort of we got that gem when, we could have easily not getting them then by anyway.
Yeah, no, I do get the point you're making. I do get it.
Right, Jack, quick preview and your thoughts on the Birmingham game and the score prediction, and also your thoughts on Amad. Is that the big difference between the two seasons, or is there much more at stake, much more as well?
Well, Amad was fantastic towards the end of last season, wasn't he? He was the catalyst for the improvement in form. He was getting better as the season was going on, wasn't he? It would have been interesting to see if we'd had him for a full season long loan, but obviously that didn't happen. He's a real top. He has that ability and he has that top little bit of class in him that we were missing at the end of that season. So yeah, he was the catalyst, but I don't think it was luck. I think it was a good transfer. It was a good transfer that worked for us. But yeah, he was definitely the difference. I don't think we get anywhere near the playoffs as it wasn't for Amad Diallo. But I think the league's stronger this year. I think this league is slightly stronger this year with the teams in it than last year. So that's we're probably not that much worse. But I think the league's stronger, which means I don't think we'll get in the playoffs, I said, all season. Moving on to Birmingham. I'm a bit worried because Tony Mowbray will probably know how to exploit our weaknesses, as Alex Neil did when he was Stoke manager. And yeah, we didn't play well the other night, and I can see it being a scruffy, scrappy 1-0 Birmingham win. That's what I'll probably go for. I think it'll be I hope I'm wrong, but I think it'll be a very similar game to last night, whereby they edge it 1-0 and we don't offer much of a threat. I hope I'm wrong. I'll probably make a couple of changes. Maybe bring like Chris Rigg in, possibly. Maybe see if he can do anything. And possibly Mundell to start. Maybe see what he can do from if he's fit enough to maybe start as well. So a couple of changes, mix it up a little bit to see what we can do. But I've just got a bad feeling about it. I've got a feeling Mowbray's going to have the last laugh, so to speak.
Would you be tempted to have Rigg instead of Ekwa or Job? Which one would you drop?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I don't want to go too attacking. Normally, you would say you need the two holding, but and possibly playing Rigg and Neil off means you're a little bit lightweight. But I thought Ekwa was absolutely terrible, and this is the problem that we've got. Our squad's a little bit one-dimensional. We've only got Ekwa. There's that sort of bit of athleticism and physicality in front of the defence. So Ekwa, even though he was absolutely shocking last night, really, I'd like to drop him. You leave yourself open a little bit if you do drop him. So I mean, it's a difficult one, but I'll probably give it a go and see what we're like without him.
It kind of shows you how thin the squad is when you've got like a 16-year-old lad only to come off the bench to replace like Ekwa. So yeah, would you want to be in there, Michael?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, like I said, we talked about getting the striker, but like I said, for me, the number one position we had to get was defensive midfield, and I think just to give a bit of cover, I think in regards to what Jack's point about the league being stronger, I think the relegated teams are stronger. But I would argue sixth downwards, I'm struggling to see anyone who is stronger than those clubs were at this point last season. I think a lot of them are pretty much, and again, unfortunately, just like ourselves, I think a lot of it is evidenced by the fact that is 6th to like 10th. There's something like 4 points separating them, whatever it is. So it's still really tight. But yeah, I mean, I am also with Jack that I don't think we'll get in the top 6. I just don't think we're consistent enough. And I think ultimately you can't be dropping points in games like Huddersfield away if you want to make the playoffs at the end of the season.
Score prediction, Jack?
1-0 Birmingham. I think they'll scrappily edge it a 1-0 win. I hope I'm wrong, but I think they'll just do enough to get by like Huddersfield last night.
Right, Mike. Quick thoughts on the Birmingham game, and you can respond to Paul Freeman's comment if you want.
I didn't see Paul Freeman's comment. Where's that?
It says, Mike, I'd love to know what game you watched to pick out Luke O'Nien as a standout last night. Can you not see, man, how shite he is?
Listen. You, as a football manager, he's the type of player you want, right? Whether he's utility or not. I know I'm always the devil's advocate on this podcast, but he's the type of player you want. He literally throws his body on the line. He's up there. He's shouting. He's aggressive. He's the one. He's the only one trying to motivate and looking like. That's why I'd have him. So that's the response to that. We'll leave that one. Birmingham. I think it's going to be an absolute terrible game. I can never predict a loss, though. We need to make the changes. Like we need to have Job not starting. He needs to come off the bench, if anything. If this coaching staff cannot see how bad he was, I know people are saying Ekwa was bad, but there's moments you can pull out in that game where Ekwa did something decent. Job didn't. Full stop. I think hands down he was probably the worst player on the pitch last night, in my opinion. So we need to make sure, as long as the coaching staff can see the changes that every single other person in the world or in the fan base can see needs making, then we'll do all right. I'm going to go for a 3-2 win, only because I'm doing the commentary. I can't do another loss, but it'll be going down. It'll be trailing all the way till the last minute, no doubt. And if you're quickly on the Ahmad thing, yes, Ahmad was a great one, but we could have had that again this season, but we didn't seem to do the sort of good work at the end in the transfer window that we wanted to. Just mention Kiefer Moore, 3 matches, 3 goals.
Michael?
Well, my point was going to be a bit different to keep them all, and it was actually going to back up. It was actually going to back up with what Mike was saying. If you don't go on about a Lugo 9 thing, Jack Ross picked him, Phil Parkinson picked him, Lee Johnson picked him, Alex Neil picked him, Tony Mowbray picked him, Michael Beale picked him. 6 different head coaches / managers all picked him to be in their teams.
Yeah, Jack wouldn't though.
Well, we know that.
That's why it's not the head coach.
I would have Luke O'Nien as a utility option. He would get some games if I was a manager, but he wouldn't start every week. He would play maybe every second or third game. I don't hate him.
Do you know what? I would have Luke O'Nien at left back in the changing rooms. That's where he would go.
I would say a big thank you to Michael.
He'd play now and
Been
again.
on the channel tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It's been a long time.
Thank you very much.
Want to say goodbye, everybody, Michael? Thank
you very much, everybody. And it's nice to be back on.
Talks loads of sense like normal. And also Jack as well. Jack's absolutely brilliant as well. I want to say goodbye to everybody, Jack.
Thanks very much, Terry. I say everybody later, lads and lasses.
Before we sign off with Mike, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody on the live stream tonight. Everybody watching, 173 on the live stream. One large, big effort for the thumbs up. Thanks for all the comments. Again, I apologise for not being able to read too many out because I'm dyslexic. But anyway, my score prediction is going to be 3-1 to Sunderland. We're going to absolutely batter Birmingham off the park. The passion's going to be there.
Philly in disguise, man.
The want's going to be there. The anticipation, everything's going to be there. And then I'll wake up in the morning. It was all a dream. Mike, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
I will, but I can't beat that enthusiasm at the moment, Terry. That was well played for that one. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Terry's wee Philly, because remember when he did predictions, he always went for 3-1 Sunderland every
3-1
time.
3-1
Terry's the new wee Philly.
Right, thanks everybody. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you all later. Thanks for watching.